A lot has been written and said about the British rule in India. If you read their version of history, you would think that the British Raj was the best thing that could have ever happened to India. But the fact is that the British looted India. A greedy and racist British Raj financed its industrial revolution by robbing India, and now there is more data to prove it. A study by Indian scholars reveals stunning numbers. The British looted as much as $45 trillion. Let that number sink in. 45 trillion dollars between 1765 and 1938. Just so that you get a sense of how big this sum is, let me give you another figure. The amount of money that the British looted from India, $45 trillion, is 17 times the current GDP of the UK. 17. That's how much India, which used to be one of the richest countries in the world, was reduced to one of the poorest. But defenders of the British Raj would argue otherwise. They claim to have given India democracy, a free press and the rule of law. They claim to have built the Indian railways, taught Indians how to speak English and even play cricket. A British research company, in fact, asked the citizens of the UK about this in 2014. What they found is astonishing. Nearly 2/3 of British citizens feel that the empire was something to be proud of. They did well, they believe. And that includes their politicians. They share this belief. One notable member of this club is a former Prime Minister. When David Cameron was in office, he was asked about his thoughts on the empire, and he said, "There is a lot that Britain can be proud of." The timing of the statement was even worse. He was visiting the Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar in 2013. Listen to his comments, and I'm quoting. This is what the former British PM said. As I was asked the question yesterday, in terms of our relationship with India, is our past a help or a handicap? I would say that it's a help because of the shared history, culture, the things that we share, and also the contributions the Indians talk about that we've made. Contributions. No word on the colonial loot, no word on the misdeeds, the rampant abuses. That's a part of history that has been conveniently brushed under the carpet. It is a fact that British school students do not learn much about their colonial past in schools. Here's a quick eye-opener for them and for all those people who believe that the Brits helped India. This is what they did. The British imposed heavy taxes on Indian producers. The British stole goods and exported them around the world for a profit of 100%. The earnings were then used to finance imports of strategic materials like iron, tar and timber from Europe. These were essential to the industrialization of the Great Britain. Due to loot from India, Britain had an impressive trade surplus that lasted for 3 decades in the 20th century. In fact, most of the so-called hallmarks, like the railways and the British architecture in India, were actually built by the Brits for themselves, for their own use, to help their own interests in India. These were no gifts for India or Indians. Take the example of the railways. The British built the network for themselves. No two ways about it. They used their own technology. Indians were forced to buy British equipment at high prices. The bill was footed by Indian taxpayers. We paid them for building all this. The British earned all the money. And now they want gratitude too. I'm afraid we can only give them numbers, and numbers they may not like. India's share of the world economy, when Britain arrived on its shores, was 23%. By the time they left, India's share was down to less than 4%. Why and how did that happen? Simply because India had been governed for all these years for the benefit of Britain. Britain's rise for 200 years was financed by its depredations in India. These are not my words. These are the words of Congress lawmaker Shashi Tharoor. Take a look at this.
It was a rare moment in Indian politics. Narendra Modi heaping praise on Shashi Tharoor for his debating skills. Modi was commending the opposition lawmaker for his passionate argument in the Oxford Union debate on whether Britain owes India reparations for 200 years of its colonial rule. The essence of Tharoor's submission was about the toll that British rule took on India's economy.
India's share of the world economy when Britain arrived on its shores was 23%. By the time the British left, it was down to below 4%. Why? Simply because India had been governed for the benefit of Britain. Britain's rise for 200 years was financed by its depredations in India. In fact, Britain's industrial revolution was actually premised upon the deindustrialization of India.
Modi said Tharoor's speech gelled with the feelings of patriotic Indians on the issue and also shows what impression one can leave with effective arguments by saying the right things at the right place.
As far as I'm concerned, the ability to acknowledge a wrong that has been done, to simply say sorry, will go a far, far, far longer way than some percentage of GDP in the form of aid. What is required, it seems to me, is accepting the principle that reparations are owed. Personally, I'd be quite happy if it was £1 a year for the next 200 years after the last 200 years of Britain and India.
The debate was entitled, "This House Believes Britain Owes Reparations to Her Former Colonies." It was organized by the Oxford Union, a debating society in the English city of Oxford, whose members are drawn from the University of Oxford. And just in case you're curious to know who won the debate, well, Tharoor's team won the debate with 185 votes to 56. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.